Now we're going to see the different cephalic presentations we can have. Indeed, this is called the attitudes of the cephalic presentation, but most of the time we call these different cephalic presentation. So just to do a summary of what we review, to not mix up the terms, we saw in the previous video that we can have a longitudinal orientation, or we can have a transverse orientation, or an oblique, but that is a transitory orientation. Longitudinal orientation is when the longitudinal axis of the mother is parallel to the longitudinal axis of the fetus, and transverse is when the longitudinal axis of the mother is transverse to the longitudinal axis of the fetus. So in the longitudinal orientation, we can have, this is orientation. In the longitudinal orientation, we can have the cephalic presentation, or the Brecht presentation. In the previous video, we reviewed the Brecht presentation, which is frank presentation, complete or incomplete, where we have extension of the thighs onto the legs. So now in the cephalic presentation, we have longitudinal orientation. So let's draw this here. We have, this is a lateral view of the mother. This is the abdomen. This is the longitudinal axis of the mother, and this is the longitudinal axis of the fetus. So this is a longitudinal orientation with a cephalic presentation. So the head, the head is what is presented through the birth canal, but specifically which part of the head is what is presented. So this is what we are going to call attitudes. So let's say attitude is going to be the relationship that the head has with all the other parts of the body of the fetus, all the parts of the fetus's body. So we can have 4 different attitudes in the cephalic presentation. So we can have where the head is completely, or the neck is completely flexed. So maximal hyperflexion of the head or neck, whatever is the same. Here, important things is here the chin contacts the thorax. The chin contacts the thorax. So chin contacts the thorax. Here, the part that is going to be presented is going to be the posterior fontanelle. So let's take a review of the fontanelle in a second. So we have let's say this is the head. This is the head. This is anterior, this is posterior. So we are seeing the head like this. This is anterior, this is posterior, this is left, and this is right. Left. So we have this. This is the frontal bone, but in the baby or in the fetus, here we have this suture that is not fused. So this is the frontal suture. These are the frontal bones. Here we have the sagittal suture. And here we have the lamboid suture. This is the occipital bone, and these are the parietal bones. Here we have one fontanelle, and here we have the other fontanelle. So this is the anterior fontanelle, and this is the posterior fontanelle. So when we have the maximal hyperflexion of the head, what is presented is the posterior fontanelle. So when we do a vaginal exam, what we feel is the posterior fontanelle. Here the part of the fetus that we are going to use to refer in which position is that part of the fetus with the mother, meaning anterior, posterior, right or left. That point is called toconomic point. Here the toconomic point is the occiput. So again, we need to have or define the presentation. Here this is a cephalic presentation. We have the attitude, that is maximal hyperflexion of the head. So maximal hyperflexion of the head, but as we will see later on, we need to define a specific part of the fetus that we are going to use to determine if that point is anterior, posterior, right or left to the mother. That point is called toconomic point, and in this maximal hyperflexion attitude of the cephalic presentation of the longitudinal orientation is the occiput. So the occiput is the toconomic point of this maximal hyperflexion attitude. Also, this is the most common presentation, most common attitude of cephalic presentation, most common. I'm going to write presentation. We will see that later on. Next, we have the maximal hyperextension. So here, this is like this. So the occiput is contacting the back. So here the occiput contacts the back of the baby. This here, if we have a maximal extension of the neck. This is called a face presentation, face, because what is presented, besides being the head, more specific than just the head, is the face, what is presented. So this is called a face presentation. Face presentation. And here, what we're going to use as the tokenomic point is specifically which part of the face is going to be the menton. So the tokenomic point is the menton. Sometimes this is also called the menton presentation. Okay, and because this is a maximal extension of the neck, as we will review later on in the videos, the cardinal movements of the baby during second stage of vaginal delivery, we need to do some extension of the neck. So if the baby is already in maximal extension, this baby cannot go through vaginal delivery because it cannot extend more the neck. So this is a contraindication to vaginal delivery, and this is an indication for cesarean delivery. Next, we can have an intermediate of this, so we can have a partial hyperflexion, of the neck or head. Here, this is a partial flexion of the neck, This is called, in Spanish, this is bregma presentation or sinciput presentation. And this is partial flexion of the neck. So eventually during labor, this is going to be converted into a maximal flexion attitude or a maximal extension. So during labor, this is going to be converted into maximal flexion or extension. And here, what we feel if we do a vaginal examination is we feel the anterior fontanelle. Then we go to the partial hyperextended neck. So this hyperextension of the neck. Here, what we are going to view if we do vaginal exam is the brown. So sometimes it's called brown presentation, but what we use to to determine the relationship of a specific point with the model. So the tokenomic point in this case is the nasal bone. So tokenomic point is the nasal bone. And again, this is like a transitory state because this is partial extension, so eventually it is going to convert into complete extension or complete flexion during labor. Complete extension or flexion. So these are the 4 attitudes we have of the cephalic presentation, which is in the longitudinal orientation. So the most important thing is in maximal hyperflexion attitude, we have the tokenomic point is the occiput, so this is also called an occiput presentation or a vertex presentation, or this is the generic cephalic presentation called cephalic presentation. So this is a specific attitude of the cephalic presentation, but instead of saying the occiput attitude of cephalic presentation, we just say the occiput presentation or vertex presentation. This is like the short way of saying it. Maximal hyperextension, this is face presentation, so this is face attitude of cephalic presentation, but the short way to say this is the face presentation. And here the tokenomic point is the mentum, here the tokenomic point is the occiput. And the partial flexion partial flexion attitude, here this is called Bregman presentation or sinciput presentation. Here what we feel in the vaginal tract is the anterior fontanelle. And in the partial extended attitude, here what we feel during the vaginal tract is the brown, but the tokenomic point is going to be the nasal bone. And this is also called in Spanish is presentación de frente. So I will say this in Spanish. Tenemos presentación cefálica o presentación vértice o vértex. Tenemos presentación bregma, presentación de cara y presentación de frente. El punto toconómico aquí es el occipucio, aquí en la cara va a ser el mentón y en parcial extensión del cuello el punto toconómico es el hueso nasal. So in the next videos we're going to do a summary of attitudes and also define more or do a specific video of what we call the tokenomic point to see the variations of the tokenomic point, and we are going to see the attitudes or tokenomic points of the other presentation we can have. So for breast presentation and for shoulder presentation, which is the presentation of the transverse orientation.